Hello. Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, Bart. Just confirming that I can hear you.
Thank you. Confirming I can hear you too. It's always a good start.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, just give people maybe another 30 seconds or so. I think everyone who is in the lobby's been let in now. So I might make a start. Okay. Good afternoon. I just wanted to thank everybody for giving us some of your precious time today. I know how time poor everybody is. I'm Bart Thomas, Principal Consultant at Customer Science. And before we kick off, just a very quick introduction. I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Doug Den Mulder, and Chatur from UiPath. And a quick hello, your mics are working, I assume?
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Yeah. Fantastic. So today we are going to share some of the latest news in around AI adoption, compliance expectations, and importantly around AI guardrail design. Throughout the next 45 minutes or so, the intention is to include a few quick live polls where we'd like to essentially benchmark some of your bigger challenges. And thanks to Chatur, we're bringing some perspective from UiPath into the conversation. UiPath, for those who don't know of them, are very much world leaders in the AI and intelligent automation space. Chatur will be taking you through how governance and compliance work in practice, and importantly, with a couple of real customer examples. Throughout the session, please feel free to pop any questions in the chat. If I don't see it because I'm chatting, or if Doug doesn't see it, or if Chatur doesn't, we'll make sure that your question gets addressed either throughout the session, or we'll have a short Q&A section at the end. Okay, this is a very quick overview of how we structured the next 45 minutes or so. And the intention is to get to the UiPath piece as quickly as possible, because that's where all the good stuff is. But just before we get started, for anyone on the call who doesn't know who Customer Science are, we are a company obsessed with helping our clients deliver great customer and employee experiences. We are all about helping Australian organisations deliver the very best customer experience and realising the competitive advantages of doing so. Customer Science, we work with all types of organisations in almost every industry. And what's great about the work that we do is that we genuinely get to make a positive difference in the organisations that we're working with. And by extension, we get to improve the quality of services for all Australians. So it's actually a pretty cool place to work in that sense. There's always good news stories. Yeah, before we begin, I'm hoping you can launch a quick poll that might help us to set the scene. Where do you see the biggest real opportunity for AI agents in your organisation? Have we got the poll popping up? Because where I am, I can't see.
Yep, there's some results coming in now.
Fantastic. What we might do is see if we can share those poll results at the end. So I'll move on. To set the scene, the evolution of AI. So this really shows where we currently stand. As I'm sure you know, the world, or the Western world, has certainly moved well beyond simple rule-based and context-aware systems now. Context-aware systems, things like the online shopping recommendation engines of the 2000s. But today we got Gen AI everywhere. I've got Gen AI arriving really around 2020, which is when OpenAI unleashed GPT-3 on the world. It doesn't feel that long ago, but at the same time it does. What was interesting was GPT-3 became the fastest growing app in history, with 100 million users in the first 8 weeks. I can't imagine where it is now. Certainly right now we're at the intersection of reasoning AI, or decision intelligence, and autonomous AI, which is also called agentic AI. So with agentic AI, we're now at a stage where AI systems aren't just making decisions based on data. They're capable of operating independently. They can handle complex tasks and reasoning through decisions without constant human guidance, which is either great or terrifying, depending on your point of view. Next really is AGI, or human level broad competence. And when that arrives is still speculative, with estimates ranging really anywhere from the next couple of years, late 2020s to the early 2030s. Some people would argue that we're already there. In the interest of time, I'll move on. We'll share the pack with you after the session. But yes, I don't think we need to worry about artificial superintelligence just yet. But certainly many in the industry think we might actually be there within the next 10 to 15 years. So scary times. Could be a great moment in human history, or it could be really, really sucky. We've yet to find out. Now, there are a multitude of different ways that organizations can adopt AI, from simple enhancements to really transformative applications. We've got sort of 7 points there that really any of these can be an entry point to the use of AI. Certainly, though, these days it's usually application embedded, such as AI features in Adobe Photoshop, or generative AI that gets things started, such as Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT, and so on. Again, I'll share this with the pack. I won't take you through each one separately. Okay, this is fun. So both images were taken on Easter Sunday. On the left, the photo was taken in 1900, and it shows one automobile amid a sea of horse-drawn carriages. And on the right, in 1913, on the same street, it is literally the opposite. In 1910, there was roughly 1 horse to every 3 people in the United States. And by the 1930s, the horse had suffered some pretty major redundancies. The ratio was down to 1 horse per 13 people. Interestingly, I'm sure if you could have asked one of the horses back in 1900 if they were worried about motor vehicles and whether they'd be replaced, I'm sure the horses would have said no way, and pointed to the fact that, hey, we've worked hard alongside humans for thousands of years. No, our position alongside man is safe. Little did the horses realize that they were going to be put out of business very, very rapidly. And so to reason through this analogy, I know I think about it all the time. I wonder if there's now a lot of us sitting here thinking, hey, wait a second, does this make me a 1900s horse? Probably good time for another quick poll. Where is your organization currently on its AI and automation journey? Again, I can't see the poll results coming through, so someone give me a kick and tell me to move on.
Just launching it now, so I'll give everyone a moment to share their thoughts.
Thank you, Gab.
It's almost even at the top. Oh no, 44% exploring AI and automation use cases seems to be the more dominant response.
Cool. Things are changing quickly because certainly a year ago, very, very few organizations were actively exploring. All right, I'll move on. So this one, again, more on disruption. So the Industrial Revolution, which took the best part of 80 years or so, really, replaced our muscles. Steam engines and mechanisation took over farming and manual labour, and it really did drive a lot of people off the land and into the cities. It was a very disruptive and painful period of time, but it also created lots of new industries and opportunities that couldn't have been imagined at the time. Today, the AI revolution is replacing our brains, which seems a little scarier. It's also happening at an incredible pace, whereas the Industrial Revolution was sort of over 80 years. I think we're going to find the AI revolution is going to take place on a much, much more compressed timescale. Another way of thinking of it, which admittedly I stole from a podcast I was listening to, but I thought it was an excellent way to articulate it. It's almost as if we have invented a new continent of remote workers, and there's billions of them. They've all got a master's or a PhD, and they're getting smarter and faster every couple of months. They speak all the languages, and just about anything you could ask someone over the internet to do, they'll do it, and they'll do it 24/7, and they're like 25 cents an hour. So really, the question isn't whether change is coming, it is a question of how ready we are to adapt. So on that, AI has got two superpowers. One superpower, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with, is distraction. Shiny demos, obviously Instagram algorithms, and in the corporate world or in business space, the Me Too off-the-shelf AI-enabled software that's available to everyone that looks like progress but doesn't really get you ahead of your competition. The other superpower is transformation, the ability to redesign your workflows, to amplify the capabilities of your human teams, and to create competitive separation, and to do it quickly, to do it at speed. So businesses tend to drift into one of these two camps. They're either hyper consumers of AI or they're hyper creators. So the consumers, as I said, they sort of dabble with these generic tools. They might capture minor efficiency gains, but they sort of stay reactive. The organizations that are creating are building AI directly into their operations, into their products, and into their decision making. So what the creators are doing is they're compounding advantages that most of the competition can't easily replicate. Okay, I can stop talking now. So before I hand over to Doug, I'll just do one more quick poll. What is the main barrier preventing you from deploying AI agents at scale today?
Cool. The poll's live, just so you know.
Great, thank you. I'll give everyone a couple of seconds. And Doug, I'll do the clicking for your bit so we don't have to reshare.
Thank you.
So give me a virtual kick under the table whenever you're ready.
Will do.
Bit of a mixed bag of results, but poor data quality and fragmented knowledge seems to sort of be leading that.
Yeah.
Lack of governance, risk, skills, capability gaps. Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Ready to rock and roll. Awesome. So a nice little infographic there, which is basically a little kicker for us to start with the most important part of a framework when choosing the right candidate for other automation AI. So we know that not every process is going to be a good automation candidate. Some of the common mistakes that we see is when people start with the tech and then start asking their questions around where can we use AI. But what we've seen is that the right starting point tends to come from the work itself. In our experience, some of the strongest candidates are processes that are generally high volume. There's clear outcomes on it. There's repeatable rules, and they tend to be even stronger when the inputs are messy or inconsistent, but the end result is still known. And then, by contrast to that, the lower volume work that depends on heavy, human in the loop or human judgment, that's usually the poorer candidate. The more discretion and interpretation involved with that, the more likely you are to automate exceptions instead of the actual process. So the principle here for us is pretty straightforward, pretty standard. Standardize first, use automation deterministically where possible, and then start to introduce AI where it actually adds value, where you see it adding value. You can go to the next one, please, Bart. When we start to talk about trust, and that question is going to come up quite often is how trustworthy is AI in general, but it can absolutely add value. We know that it doesn't behave like traditional rules-based automation. That means that your governance around that framework matters even more. A model can look accurate in a demo, like I'm sure you've all had experience of. We've seen POCs or MVPs that have been put forward and it looks great. It works 100%, does what it needs to do, but then it still fails in production. It's because the real issue there is not only that the model itself is not necessarily correct, but the environment around it might not be sustainable or fit for purpose. So ultimately, your performance depends on your data quality, the configuration of it, your exception handling, and then how much ambiguity actually exists in the task end to end. So when we talk about trust, we're not talking about just blind confidence in the model. We're talking about confidence in the controls that are around it. So that means, for us, again, experience-wise, clear use cases, clear thresholds, it's auditable. You can monitor it. You have fallback paths, and you've included human checkpoints where needed. So the question then becomes, is the model accurate? Or sorry, not. The question is not does it become, or is the model accurate? The better question should be, when it gets something wrong, what happens next? So if you can answer that clearly, then you know that you're moving into a more governable automation.
Next one.
Thanks, Bart. So the 80-20 rule is, you're probably quite familiar with it. It does apply to many different verticals across the world, but getting a use case to work, or it's often the easiest part, right? So the first 80%, again, from our experience, what we've seen, you can move really quickly on that. The concept is sound, you have a prototype that works, the business gets excited, everyone's happy. But then the hardest part of that is that final 20%. So that's where production reality really shows up. So where you deal with edge cases or exception handling, you've got access controls, testing support, ownership, any sort of change management. The big difference between something that can work and something that can run safely and reliably in production, the gap is exactly where governance matters. So governance gives us, or gives you the structure around intake, the qualification, risk approvals, delivery standards, and then production monitoring. So for us, a basic little sense check and a test is not can we build it. Our test is normally can we operate it reliably at scale once it's been built. You can jump to the next one, please, Bart. It's a fun little snippet there. This final point is probably around, or is predominantly around performance expectations. So a mature governance framework starts with practical assumption. So we know that AI is going to get things wrong, whether it be frequently, occasionally. It can get things wrong. That's not the reason to avoid it. It's probably a reason, or it is a reason to design properly around it in the first instance. So question is not, again, whether errors will happen or occur. The question is whether the process is set up to detect them, contain them, and then recover them and recover from them. So we think about confidence-based routing, validation steps for high-risk actions, exception queues, approvals, logging, and then traceability. We also need to recognize that not every process needs the same level of control. So for high volume and lower risk work, like I said earlier, you may allow for more autonomy, but then for your higher judgment or high impact work, those controls need to be a lot tighter. And then that brings us back to the first slide that I spoke to, was that selection principle from the start. So high volume plus messy inputs, you know that you can generally get strong candidates out of that, and provided controls are in place. With the lower volume plus high judgment, it's often a weaker candidate. So you probably need to spend a bit more work in that area before you can even start to build. So that's why when we look at it, governance starts well before development. That's fine.
Thank you. So before we hand over UiPath, here's another quick question for you. How confident are you that your organisation has the right governance and controls in place today to scale AI responsibly?
Just pop the poll up for everyone to share their thoughts. Not confident yet. Governance is still being developed. Seems to be sort of a bit of a standout. And then we've got a bit more of the top end with very confidence that the governance is embedded and monitored. So yeah, bit of a mixed bag of responses there from the people with us today.
Good one. Thank you. So we might hand over to Chatur from UiPath, and I know you've got another quick question for everybody too, don't you?
Yeah, thank you very much, Matt. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for your time. Yeah, before I begin, I'll pop in another question as a poll, and you can respond to that.
It's on the screen now for you. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's assume you're responsible to roll out the agentic automation in your organization. Now, that sort of changes your questions on governance. It's not IT governance anymore. It's governing both the automations that you have, the AI agents that you might be using or leveraging, and also the humans in the loop to provide input or approvals.
You won't be able to see this, Chatur, but it's very balanced. It's almost even across all of those different responses.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
I'd pick all of them, to be honest. All right. Am I able to share my screen, Gab?
Get Bart too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So those are the list of same sort of questions that you probably answered. Now, what happened was, as we were working with some of our customers a few months ago, one of our banking customers sort of described their dilemma. They said, we don't want to stop people from using AI, but at the same time, we can't afford for an AI agent to move the money it shouldn't. So that's a very standard concern. Now that's the sort of core tension in enterprises that are trying to leverage AI today. Now you want speed, and that's the promise, but at the same time, not at the cost of lacking control. So you want intelligent autonomy, but with accountability. So now traditional IT governance was about who can do something, and then agentic governance is different. It's about what actions can an autonomous system take, what is it allowed to take in the first place, when, and under what policy. So that's very key to any adoption of agentic automation. Now, what UiPath promises is it's providing 4 different sort of pillars to your governance. The first is the controlled agency, where each agent's scope of action is predefined and it's constrained. So agents then operate only within the assigned roles and within the systems that it has access to, with their behavior orchestrated through UiPath's Maestro. I'll come to Maestro in a few slides. Now, when you use UiPath to make suggestions for optimizations for human review and approval, they're all part of your deployment cycle, and they kind of ensure accountability for every change. Now, that's what is controlled agency, where you're in total control. All of your steps are deterministic, and all of the probabilistic outcomes from the AI agents can have guardrails that determine what its actions are allowed and constrained. Now, next is agent reliability. Now, when you are building AI agents, you would like to know if they are going to be consistent in delivering the outputs and outcomes for the same type of inputs. You would want to know how well they would perform when you actually deploy it in production, not just when you're either building a prototype or you're testing. So the agent scoring and the agent guardrails within the UiPath agent builder help you, determine how good the agent is going to perform once it's deployed. What tools are you providing it access to, and what guardrails are you describing, both in terms of the prompts that you describe, as well as the tools that you want the AI agent to leverage to perform certain tasks. Then the next is centralized policies. Now, when you are an enterprise, you would like to apply these centralized policies universally across all of your automations that leverage AI, or even have humans in the loop to perform certain actions. Now, within the UiPath platform, the administrators, they can define such rules, and these rules can be applied to agent groups, which can access different systems such as your payment system or are handling confidential data. And then you can enforce all of your policies the platform-wide. So even if local configurations drift, they sort of change, your global policies always override those inconsistencies to maintain compliance. So that's what is the centralized policies capability within the platform. And finally, there is model governance. Now, LLMs, they are subject to the same rigor as any enterprise service. The UiPath AI trust layer filters and masks PII information that is contained either in the prompt or in any information before it's sent to the LLM. And you can apply data handling restrictions, thus ensuring like every model that you use or you're calling, it is logged and it's auditable as well. Feel free to pop in your questions if you have, and we'll endeavor to respond to them. All right. Next. So let's talk about what UiPath platform provides. Here are our promises rather. So you probably have a concern saying, how can we be sure our data isn't being used to train any models? Now, you probably are familiar with all the large language model. Initially, when ChatGPT rolled out, there was a concern that even the employees of OpenAI are able to look at the prompts of certain users, etc. So what we promise is we never use any of the customer data to train AI in any AI models, whether it's an LLM or otherwise. So that's a complete opt-out, and it's available today within the platform. The second promise, What about third-party AI vendors? Are they hosting any of our data? So that could be, AWS, Azure, or any of the hyperscalers, any other AI vendors you might be leveraging models from. So we never let our third-party vendors use that data, and we require them to certify that customer data is not being used. So we provide you that sort of a promise within the platform itself as well. The next one, will AI still allow us to meet our data sovereignty needs? You can control where your models are hosted and where the data is stored and where it is processed. So the LLM configuration capability allows you to also bring your own model so that you can ensure where your data is residing and what model you're using. So you might have an info security team prescribing a particular version of a particular LLM model to be used, and that's widely accepted within the business. For anything else, you need to go through a stringent security measures and you want to get started, you can always bring that particular model that's been approved to build AI agents within the UiPath platform. The next promise, what prevents AI from accidentally putting data from the wrong system? So you can always define your guardrails and specify which tools the AI agents have access to. You can define it at an agent level. When there is an agent-to-agent handoff, all the other agents would have access to their own tools, and you can specify what it's authorized to access and what it is not. So you can restrict all the data access controls. You can enforce, folders isolation, give it roles, and provide role-based access to the AI agents as well, all within the same sort of interface and platform. So that should give you some sort of peace of mind that the AI agents cannot access data that they're not authorized to. Finally, are AI models getting access to any sensitive information? So PII filtering and masking is a native capability, and that's applicable to prompts as well as any files that you send as attachments to any of these AI agents. So none of that, if it contains personally identifiable information, that can be masked before AI is looking at any of the data. If it does require you to look at that information and then make decisions, obviously you will. That's the core ask from AI. So you would be exposing that data. But if the use case does not require you to expose that sensitive information, you can always mask it. All right, so these are the promises, and that's already available in our platform today. Let's move on to see some of the scenarios wherein our customers have applied all of these to their use cases. So let's start with the first one, where the primary concern is what if the AI agent that we are building is going to run into a loop out of control and consume all of our subscription in just a day, a week, month, whatever is the case. So as I mentioned earlier, with UiPath Maestro, you have complete controlled agency. What that means is you govern and you restrict how many times the AI agent needs to reason to arrive at a particular output or an outcome, and not misinterpret what the ask or the intent is. So you're able to define how many times it can repeat, what needs to trigger the AI agent, and define your own constraints and add guardrails to any tools or the prompt itself. That way you're limiting your sprawl. Next is conversational agents. So UiPath also is providing you with the builder to create conversational agents besides autonomous agents. And now the concern is, what if the conversational agent responds with unsafe, harmful content, or even bypasses certain context and provides confidential information. So that's definitely a concern. And in our platform, we do provide you with jailbreak protection, wherein you're not allowing the AI agents to provide anything out of context. So you can ground the responses of an AI agent to the knowledge and context that you're providing. And that's all subject to your governance policies as well as the enterprise policies and operating procedures. You can provide all of that as a constraint to the AI agent. The next scenario, what if an employee accidentally includes sensitive information in the prompt while they're either chatting with the conversational agent or building the AI agent? That's where the PII in-flight masking feature helps mask any sensitive information even before it reaches the gateway for the LLM to process the request. And that's applicable to both prompt and any files. The next scenario is overprivileged agent misuse of access. So that's also a scenario. I'm not sure if you've heard of multiple different news articles on different providers wherein an agent was able to access the entire enterprise CRM or ERP, and it had complete access, admin access. So that's not possible with guardrails. So you can always escalate any unauthorized request to a human. You can bring a human in the loop and escalate, saying, hey, when we have this conversational agent deployed, someone's actually asking for information that they're not supposed to get access to. So then the human can review that request and accept, deny, or the agent can choose not to provide that information. And finally is cost overruns from misconfigured agent. So you might actually have a framework where you're leveraging multiple agents, and you didn't realize that you're calling it cyclically, where an AI agent is calling another AI agent that calls a third agent that calls back the first agent, and there you have a infinite loop of an agent calling each other, and it just consumes all of your subscription and the units you'd have. So there's usage monitoring, there's controls to prevent that, and there's complete audit logging along with observability as to how many times is the agent calling the large language model, what is the input it is sending, what are its outputs even at an intermediate stage level. What UiPath is also working on is providing an agent that can continuously monitor the behavior of all the agents that you have deployed in production. And it will always refer back to any policies that you have described and what's the coverage of that policy. And the moment it finds that there are agents that are drifting from an expected output, then it can trigger a governance alert saying, hey, there's some sensitive data flowing to different external endpoints, and this needs some intervention from the governance officers, etc. You can also define a policy that is applicable at a enterprise-wide, and all of these capabilities. So this is called Project Guardian, wherein you have an ambient AI which is monitoring the behavior of all the AI agents that you have deployed. So this is going to be added to the platform capability soon. All right. So we probably have seen several certifications and attestations for having an enterprise a secure platform that you'd like to leverage for different purposes. There hasn't been an AI management system standard up until 2024, wherein a certification that evaluates any platform provider for their AI offerings on different governance, sort of techniques and features, and that certification would confirm a safe use of AI from that particular provider. So UiPath is proud to have gone through that certification, wherein you can use the platform for designing, developing, and governing all of your AI agents. We've gone through that rigorous process of benchmarking our offering for transparency, risk management, and accountability, and we have passed through that certification. So that's just something for you to take to your InfoSec teams if they do have any concerns on adoption of AI. Now, let's try and understand truly what agentic AI is. So there's a lot of noise in the market. It's everywhere that we are listening to. There are organizations and institutions that kind of always talk about autonomous enterprises. There are several tasks and activities that can be performed autonomously by AI agents. We will have digital co-workers working alongside with us performing these tasks. Yet oftentimes these are all just a vision, and it takes a lot to reach there. Let's try and understand what it entails. Basically, to truly deploy any agentic automation, you would need four things. Obviously, it needs to include agents, in this instance, the AI agents that can make decisions on your behalf, but they should be context aware. If their decisions are made without context, those may not be desirable. So that's what is one piece of the entire puzzle. Then there are automations that you probably already have or APIs that you would like to leverage. So they are all deterministic. You know what the output is, what the input to those automations and APIs are. Then you have human oversight, either to review and approve, or to provide an input to either the agent or the automation. So there's human side to ensure that compliance. And finally, what you would need is an orchestration layer that can orchestrate all of these three different modes of working, wherein you're marrying the agent's input to, say, the robot's or an agent's output to a robot's input, where you're bringing or escalating whenever required to humans and taking the humans' input, etc. And that should have complete audit capability, wherein you're observing what is happening, when it is happening, and by whom, and you can rely on that automation to basically give you that desired results. So this is where UiPath kind of closes the gap between what the market is, talking about, and in practice, what can you have in production. So UiPath Maestro is our offering, is our product, which sort of enables you to kind of operationalize any of your ideas that you have for an agentic automation, and you can do it at scale. Let's look at an example. So here's a real world example of reviewing contracts. Now, if you think of contracts, these can be any documents. They can be trust deeds, they can be sales contracts, they can be legal contracts, etc. And reviewing these contracts really require you to first of all classify what that information in that contract pertains to, and then extract at multiple levels. So, and then you can run certain business rules or logic and map it to a set of policies that you already have defined. So in this particular example, we worked with the customer to review the incoming contracts. There were about 25,000 contracts, and each contract would run anywhere between 150 pages to 500 pages. manually sifting through such large contracts required a lot of time. It required coordinating with multiple teams to basically understand if it kind of adhere to an existing sort of policies and contracts we had, or whether it needed further review or revision, etc. So we worked with partners such as Customer Science to put a solution in production, wherein we were able to bring down the amount of effort and time it took to review contracts to minutes. And we leveraged multiple AI agents built on UiPath platform to be able to do that. So that's just one example. You can apply that to any use case you can think of. Let's try and understand what UiPath platform is and what it provides. So at the top, you can provide any user experience. This can be a chatbot. It can be a rich web application or a mobile app which you have built using either UiPath tools or your own tools, but leveraging the UiPath SDK, which stands for Software Development Kit. And then that is just an experience layer. Underneath that, you would have UiPath Maestro, wherein you can sort of design the business process. So we provide business process modeling notation framework, wherein a lot of the business analysts might already be familiar with BPM and models, and creating business processes within those BPM and tools. The Maestro capability already provides that as well out of the box, and you can define a business process. Then there is case management, where you can think of any business process as having multiple stages, with each stage having its own SLAs, service level agreements, and you can also define what should happen when there is a risk for a particular threshold that you might define, or if you're breaching that particular SLA. And you can define that for each individual stage or each individual sub-process, thus holding that particular line of business or the business owner accountable for the completion of that particular stage. We also have a flow design. So if you're coming from a developer world and if you'd like to leverage something like an N8N, where you're describing all of those APIs and agents and you're invoking multiple of them, and you would like to just do that on the fly and debug it. So there is a flow view within UiPath Maestro, which you can leverage to do that as well. And ultimately, you'll be leveraging either AI agents or a combination of agents, RPA, API, and IDP here is intelligent document processing to extract information from scanned documents, PDFs, images, etc., and combining that to present something to a human to either review and approve or provide their own input. Now, under that, the next layer is to actually provide context to all of your agentic processes. That context can be provided via UiPath's context grounding, wherein you create vector databases and indexes for all of your naturally defined documents and content. So you can point it to a repository within SharePoint, within OneDrive, Google Drive, etc., and say, this is the context that the AI agent should use, and any response it provides should be grounded in the context we are providing. You can also use Data Fabric for any system of records. For example, you might be using Salesforce or ServiceNow or any other ERP or a CRM system, and all of your customer data and information is stored in those systems. You can use UiPath Data Fabric to provide that context, that personalized attributes, the personalized attributes of the original requester, wherein as soon as the AI agent looks at the request, it can query your underlying systems, pull the data into Data Fabric, and that becomes the context for the AI agent to act on. We support integrating with multiple systems. via pre-built connectors. You can also use a custom builder to connect to any system that has an API. You can use RPA for systems that don't have an API layer. We also support agent-to-agent handoff, as well as MCP protocols for you to manage any MCP servers and clients that you have. Beneath that is your systems and data, which can reside in any of these different enterprise applications you use, and everything will go through the governance and security AI trust layer that we provide. So everything is auditable, and you would know what information flowed between all of these different systems. All right. Now, what can you do with all of that? So at a very top level, you'd have defined all of those different stages of your process. Each of those stages could use an AI agent or an RPA, or where required a human for input or approval. And then you can visualize end-to-end what that particular flow looks like. Now, this is a massive shift that sort of allows you to take some entrenched process automation add-on, and you can build real business processes that are sort of chaotic, or they are very dynamic, they are exception laden, and they have convoluted paths or exceptions that are sort of opaque in the beginning, but are more evident when you actually process transactions real time in production. So that's the comprehensive capability we are providing with our platform. Next, I would like to just show you some of the platform capabilities and what it looks like. So what you're looking at is an entity onboarding end-to-end process that has been broken down into 4 different stages, where there is initial processing, wherein you kind of query your customer relationship management system to get data, and then you process certain client onboarding documents that have been submitted. So that's your first stage. Upon completion, you then go through the validation of the information. Then you perform certain screenings wherein you want to know your customer. You want to know the risk that they carry, etc. So you could leverage external third-party APIs or systems and software in order to do that. And you would be bringing it and making it a part of your end-to-end process. And here you can see that every step also would tell you how much time it's taking, what's the duration of completion for those individual sub-processes, including the stages that they are defined into. And on the right side, on the last block of opening accounts, you can see there are 3 pending activities to be performed. So you can actually run these in parallel or in a sequence, and you have complete control over defining what all of those individual stages are. Now, what would we derive from all of this once we define an end-to-end process? Like, as a business owner, what I would wake up thinking is not whether my automation ran and it completed a particular task. I would rather focus on thinking, am I in compliance of all the SLAs that have been defined for the process? Are there any transactions that have reached that compliance or are at risk of breaching? And what percentage of all of my sort of requests or transactions are handled by agents and robots, and what percentage is still being worked on manually, etc. So it then generates dashboards out of the box automatically to tell you and give you a realistic view of where things stand and how your end-to-end processes are currently running. Not only that, you're also able to create process apps which define the metrics that you'd like to track. For example, if you look at the bottom right sort of a table wherein you're looking at different activities within the process and looking for the average time. So let's say it processed 100 transactions today or in the last month. It approximately takes 5 days to complete that particular step on an average, but there are a few transactions that have taken way over time. They've taken about 29 or 27 days to complete. You may want to double click and look into and investigate why that particular activity took that long. So this is all available out of the box natively. You also get access to audit logs, so you're able to visualize every step performed within that particular end-to-end process you have defined. When was it performed? By whom was it performed? Was it an automation, an AI agent? Was it simply an API call? How long did it take, etc.? So you have complete audit logging. And finally, there is heat maps showing you the areas that have the bottlenecks and need your attention. So that's really powerful when you're thinking from a business owner or a business operator to understand where it's taking the longest within a business process to complete. And we also have tools to design really rich interfaces for bringing human in the loop. You can build a conversational agent, a chatbot, wherein the subject matter expert can ask questions. They can look at documents, they can look at all the business rules, etc. So that's what part of the offering from UiPath. I'm more than happy to take any questions on the offering or any thoughts and comments. Happy to receive any feedback as well. And I'll pass it to Bart for any closing comments.
Thank you, Chatur. Pretty good time. We've got 1 minute left, so well done. All right, just to wrap things up, we just have one final poll, which hopefully people don't mind jumping in and answering. So when an AI agent needs to take action across systems in your organization, what happens today? What actually happens today? People a second.
Got some answers coming in. Partially automated with human handoff. Most manually after AI provides recommendations. One or a little bit there. We're not using AI agents in this way yet. Yeah, bit of a mixed bag across. Yep.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. And finally, I just wanted to say thank you, and hopefully you've got value out of today's session. And hopefully you're also thinking of some problem processes that you're considering attacking with AI. On screen there, we've got a QR code, which has a tool that allows you really to sanity check your AI automation idea before you invest. So if you've got a process in mind, scan the link, run it through this, and it'll tell you if it's worth automating with AI. We will share the pack, so if you don't have the inclination to do it now, you can always grab the QR code later on. Finally, I suppose we are right on time. Were there any burning questions before we wrap up the session? I can't see the chat, so I'm going to rely on you, Doug and Gab, Chatur.
No questions so far from what I can see, Bart.
Okay, no problem, but certainly we will circulate the pack. Feel free to follow up with any questions, and we'll be happy to jump in and answer them, have a conversation if appropriate. Thanks again, everybody, for your time, and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you, Bart, and you.
Thanks, Bart. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Cap.